just current legal ramifications on extensions of various types of contracts are. But I would just, for anybody finding themselves in that situation, try to take comfort in the fact that across the board institutions are aware of this and are willing to address this. And I would say that I think Germany is really exemplary at the moment. I know that I have been a bit critical about its approach to mental health in this country, but I think Germany really is exemplary in and leading the way in supporting businesses, in supporting employers and employees. Is difficult for everybody. The willingness is there, and particularly the political will, which is important. Obviously, every individual case might be complex and difficult, but I firmly believe that solutions can be worked out.
Okay, and Nicola, do you need to go now?
Elliot, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you need to leave? I just saw you.
Yeah, I think I do. I'm sorry for leaving you guys, but it's been a fantastic conversation. So thank you very much for inviting me. And wishing everyone all the very best.
Thanks very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Elliot, I just spotted a question that I'd really like to address, if that's possible.
Yeah, please.
Somebody anonymous, they addressed it directly towards me, and they asked, whom do you communicate out with about mental health issues? I think this is really important. And I think first and foremost, talk to somebody that you trust. That's got to be the first thing you do, whether it be family or friends. And in my case, when I really hit rock bottom, what happened to me was the following. I was actually writing up my thesis, and I had promised myself I was going to go on a trip with my brother to China. And I noticed that as I was writing my thesis that I was actually afraid of making that journey. I mean, I had a massive anxiety disorder. Lots of things would make me afraid. Crowds of people made me afraid. Being in a bus or in a lift would make me afraid, to the extent that, I could vomit from nerves. That's how bad it was. And certainly I'd be shaking and that kind of stuff. So that's when I realized I can't actually go on this trip, which was supposed to be the dangling carrot, the reward I was giving myself for going on this, for finishing my thesis. And so I had to admit to my brother that this trip was not going to happen because I was not okay. And that really was the trigger that then helped me find help. And the important thing here is that, yes, I think you should talk with family or friends or anybody that you trust as a start to perhaps addressing these problems. But you must realize one very important thing. Your family or your friends cannot help you sort this problem. You will end up always being in a circle. I've also at university had, one of my best mates was clearly suffering from depression. And it was just always the same story. And it can be a real burden on friends and family if you just keep telling them stuff and not really finding the answers. Plus, another important thing is friends and family. You are so connected, so close to them that paradoxically, you kind of really take them a little bit for granted and tend perhaps not to listen to them so well. Whereas a stranger, which would be a counselor, you are more likely to take on board what they say, whereas what your mom's told you a million times goes in one ear and out the other. And it doesn't mean that they don't want to support you, but they simply can't. So I think that your network of trust, your personal relations, it can be extremely helpful in facing up to the fact that you might be suffering from mental health problems. you know, your family might say, as they did in my case, yeah, we've suspected that for a long time, and we think it's great that you take the step to see a psychologist. But it's very difficult for them to say, I think you should see a psychologist. You know, it's a hard thing to say to somebody, and most people won't, and they probably shouldn't, because they'd make you more resistant to do that. So talk to somebody you trust, that you can be honest about how you feel, what your issues are, and listen to them. They will probably be supportive in you finding the next level of support, but don't make the mistake of thinking that that solves your problem. In case of mental health problems, it really helps to talk to a counselor. And it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you're a nutcase or that you are going to be institutionalized. And there's no big mystery about counseling with a psychologist. It's basically a Q&A session where they ask you, they mostly ask questions. They're not going to provide you with answers. The answers will come from yourself. This is what I have found. By asking you directed, targeted questions. What happened to me is that my counselor wanted me to describe my episodes of anxiety. So in the first instance, I would describe the circumstances that triggered my anxiety. She said, no, that's not what I want to know. I want to know what's happening in your head as you go in this spiral of anxiety. That caused me to have to analyze my internal thought processes that would make me spiral out of control. And by analyzing this, it was like a situation of one thought replacing the other that eventually caused me to break that cycle. And this is what you need professionals for. They can do that in a direct fashion. So my answer is twofold. Talk with people you trust to help you find the help that you really need.
Thanks so much, Hendrik. That's really, really valuable advice. I've also spent a lot of time seeing different therapists, and also dealt a lot with the self-stigma that we all are confronted with, and what we worry about, what other people think about us, that it's a weakness or a disability or flaw, or it's something that we just need to get over. A lot of people actually in the Q&A have asked several different questions about how to deal with their feelings and you know, these negative feelings and these negative thoughts. And yeah, I just wanted to say, when we post this webinar, I wanted to post the webinar with a whole bunch of free online resources which are currently available, a lot which have previously been, it would cost a lot of money. A lot of companies are opening up their resources to provide formal psychotherapy, to, you know, all the way down to kind of simple well-being advice on apps. And there's just the world of digital health right now is just really exploding, and especially since this pandemic, it's become so much more relevant in the current situation, where especially for mental health, I think, where it makes it it's just so much easier to pick up a phone, download an app, when you start feeling like maybe these kinds of mental health resources might help you, rather than having to leave your home, go and face a stranger, and navigate the healthcare system, which is already difficult, to be able to get any help. I think these online resources and these digital e-mental health kind of revolution, I guess, that's going on right now is just hugely valuable and hugely relevant to this current situation. So I highly recommend participants to check out the resources that I post online. I'll try to give some structure, but there's really a lot that's available. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, Hendrik?
Yeah, because there was also one of the questions was somebody who was clearly interested in going down the route of some sort of online counseling, and they were asking specifically, had I recommendations for somebody to do this in English? And I haven't. And as you, Elliot, as you have just pointed out, this can be very difficult to navigate. What might be worthwhile is to look again within your network and to ask